M3GAN, or M3GAN as everyone's jokingly calling it right now, is a new sci-fi horror movie released in the month of January, so you can imagine how I was probably feeling about this movie going into it. So in this movie, Allison Williams becomes the guardian of her niece after her niece's parents are killed in a car crash. Her niece is obviously going through a really tough time, lost both of her parents, and Allison Williams does not really know how to be a parent to her. Allison Williams works as this designer for this toy company, and she has been working on this crowning achievement, what is basically going to be this android sort of doll that can be a kid's best friend. She starts going ahead with this invention. It's a Model 3 generative android. I don't think I said that right. It's something like that. And yeah, this thing is doing a really good job, it seems, with the kid, being there for her, listening to her, coaching her through life, basically doing what a parent should be doing for their kid. But you all know how this is going to play out. M3GAN starts developing a mind of her own, starts acting on her own will, starts believing there are certain ways this kid should be protected, which leads to her doing some really sketchy, evil, messed up shit. As I alluded to earlier, January is really a shitty month for movies, especially for horror movies. It's typically this time of year where studios are like, alright, we just need to fill the month with some stuff, so just put in those movies that, couldn't get release dates at more popular times of last year. But you know what? I'll just get out of the way and say right now, M3GAN, not as bad as I thought it was going to be. In fact, it was surprisingly enjoyable. So first of all, what works in this movie? Okay, I really liked the dynamic between Allison Williams and her niece because it does feel real. This little girl lost her parents, and Allison Williams was listed as basically next of kin, or however it works, to take care of her. She was first in line to become this little girl's guardian. The problem is, the ironic part is, even though she's this person who designs toys for kids, she doesn't really know how to be a parent, how to work with kids, how to be a parent to a kid. I thought it was a really fitting kind of narrative because it kind of fits what happens in this real world. Some people end up having kids or end up getting custody of kids, and they're just not really sure how to be parents, didn't really feel like they want to be parents, but they just feel like they have to raise this kid. It's a kind of aspect that's not really shown in movies these days, and I thought it worked for a storyline like this. And also, I think that's why the doll, or the android, or whatever you want to call her, M3GAN, she works in this movie, or the concept behind her works in this movie. Because again, there are parents out there who have these kids, they don't really want to raise them. They hire these nannies, they just basically drown them in technology. It's like, go play on your iPad, go watch TV, go do this, go do that, so whatever, so I don't have to deal with you. Because that's really become the problem with the world nowadays. The world nowadays is so centered around what we can do with technology, the things we can teach people with it. There are apps and there are TV shows out there to teach your kid how to read and how to do math and how to do all the educational shit. Kid has a question on life or anything like that, doesn't have to maybe go to their parents, they'll just ask Alexa to figure it out for them. I've always said this, when I ever have kids one day, I want to be in a house where there's less technology. I'm not saying there won't be any, but I want to make sure there's a more limited amount than other people would, because I want to parent my kids. I don't want technology to do it for me. Another reason behind that for me would be, just the other moral that I took out of this movie, is how much kids rely on technology these days. How much people do in general. I mean, a lot of kids these days, because, toys are evolving and technology, again, is evolving. They get so consumed by their technology that they don't really know how to behave in the real world. You see it in this girl a little bit. It's hard for her to talk to these other kids without M3GAN around because she's so enthralled with M3GAN at this point. She doesn't really know how to think or how to feel or how to, convey certain emotions. She just has to turn to a toy, to a piece of technology, to really understand that for herself. This movie illustrates, sometimes if you let technology completely take over your life, you're not really going to know how to act or grow in the real world. So I think that's the biggest thing I took away from this movie. The trailer just made it out like it's just this, generic horror movie. It has more to it. It has these big life messages and takeaways to come home with. But I'll get into everything else. The characters in this movie, they're fine. Are they super memorable? No. Are there performances here that you'll really remember? No. It's a generic horror movie. Most generic horror movies do not have performances or characters that you care about because you're just bracing for people to die. And also, like I said, I did really like the concept of M3GAN. She starts out as someone who's just meant to be a friend to a kid, meant to be their helper, meant to be, something to keep an eye over them. But again, I like the concept. It's like M3GAN is the embodiment of technology that evolves. She sees things, she notices things, maybe certain things alert her, maybe certain programs start developing, and because of that, she develops a mind of her own, and she has a different understanding of protection. She's like, that thing upset her, that thing bothered her, that thing, hurt her. It's like she's not supposed to feel that emotion or pain of any kind, so whatever caused that, gotta be wiped out. Shows the dangers in technology, and I like seeing that a little bit. Also, as far as flaws in the movie go, it's not the scariest movie I have ever seen. I mean, the movie can feel a little unnerving at times, it can feel a little bit more thrilling than I guess I would say it felt scary. But this is not the type of movie that's gonna keep you up at night. I mean, it's a movie about a doll that is now alive, acts on its own, and people may die. How many times have we seen that before? You could literally create a genre of evil killer doll and make it its own. That's how many of those we have, so this movie's not exactly gonna break ground in that sense. So yeah, if you're a fan of those kind of movies, you will probably find enjoyment in this movie, but you're also gonna find it very predictable. Like, not gonna lie, there are several moments. There was one moment in particular where, Allison Williams brings a little girl into her home and she introduces her to something. I'm just like, that's gonna play a big role later. And guess what? I was very right. And when you see it, you will know what I'm talking about. Also, I think the other issue I had is the character M3GAN, when she does cause harm to certain people, you kind of find yourself rooting for her. Because maybe something is abusing the kid or something's picking on the kid and she's like, again, you're kind of being a piece of shit. Just gonna do away with you so she doesn't have to deal with you and the world doesn't have to deal with you. And frankly, when she does really fucked up things to certain people or certain things, you're kind of on her side. You don't really want to find yourself rooting for what's supposed to be the evil monster in the movie, but I kind of find myself doing that a few times in this movie. Part of the thing that makes horror movies a little bit more intense is when there are characters you care about, or at the very least don't hate, you're kind of rooting for them to live, and when they die, it adds a little bit more suspense to it. Makes the movie more intense, makes the movie more scary, because now you're like, okay, I don't know which characters are gonna live or die in this one. It kind of became a little more obvious over what's gonna live or what's gonna die. Like, if you're shitty in this movie, you're probably gonna die, and if you're not so shitty in this movie, you'll probably live through this thing. So all in all, M3GAN, it was a surprisingly decent movie. I really do like the concept in this movie, even though it's a little bit redundant and we have seen it many, many times. I really, really liked the messages that it's constantly throwing out there, what it means to be a parent, why technology shouldn't run your life or your kids' lives, the danger in technology, how it's constantly evolving, and there could be times where we just do not have control over it anymore. The movie has some thrills, it has some intense moments, it is pretty predictable though, and I do wish they made the character M3GAN more evil than I think the movie made her out to be. I mean, she didn't really feel like pure evil. She felt like necessary evil in this movie more times than I can count. But in the end, if you go in with the right expectations and you can avoid a crowd of stupid fucking kids who talk throughout the movie, which is what I had to fucking deal with here. Well, another reason why I hate PG-13 horror movies, but that's not really a knock on the movie itself, just had to get that out. You will probably, like me, walk away from this movie having a solid time with it. So that's all I'm gonna say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video, and as always, don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you all next time.